Welcome to a special Today in EVE Online. This is Matterall talking to you from the new OBS that we'll be running with as we start to get Today in EVE Online back up and running. There has been some technical downtime due to working on Macintosh and with one monitor, but that is all going to be behind us as of now. So for this special occasion, we wanted to have something that was very current and very interesting that's going on in EVE Online right now, and that is the story of Pittsburgh2989. But before we start, I would like to say hello to Ron, USMC. How are you doing, Ron?
I'm doing good. I'm doing good. Happy to be here. Sad, but still happy.
Yeah, this is kind of a touchy subject, so we'll try to keep it um, as informative as possible. And I would like to introduce to everybody Fleet Commander Pittsburgh2989. How are you?
You know, just fresh off a move.
Fresh off a move, you said there? You got cut off a little bit.
Yeah, fresh off moving alliances for the first time in quite some.
Okay, so the occasion is that you were a longtime fleet commander for the Imperium. I believe the corporation is Shadow. What's the
Shadow
corporation?
State.
Shadow State. Thank you. You've been there a long time, and you have recently departed from the Imperium, specifically Goon Swarm, because you've been forced out due to something that we'll talk about. And so, for the first time in a very long time, you are finding yourself without the home that you've known for the last few years. You're a popular fleet commander, from what I've heard, and you've done a ton of work. So, actually, let's go to you and talk about first your past.
So I actually came back from a deployment a while back and was like, okay, well, I need to join an alliance. Tried joining Test, that didn't work out, so I ended up linking up with Goonswarm and been with them for or with an association to Goonswarm ever since. Started out just doing little small gang stuff. I was with SMA at the time and started learning how to FC fleets and stuff there. We were fighting 401k. Eventually, we transitioned to FA, which FA still being my all-time favorite alliance. Had a lot of good times there. We kind of scaled that up. Went all the way up to capital stuff, fighting through the test war in Fountain, and then
FA is,
holding Fountain.
was it Fatal Ascension?
Yeah, Fatal Ascension, sorry.
Mm-hmm.
And then after that, bounced between Bastion and CO2, and somehow we caught ourselves in CO2 when GigX decided to make the swap. We narrowly escaped with our supers there because I was an idiot and sent an Eve mail, so I'm sure my corp will always remind me of that. And then we transitioned to Goon Swarm, where I did a ton of fleets. Pretty much been FCing for the Imperium for about 6.5 years, 6 years and little. I've done everything from whatever home defense fleets to Sov grinds, including clearing out Delve, to Locust fleets, to most recently whelping a ton of dread.
We'll talk about that incident as that's the incident that was the catalyst for your departure. But before we do that, what's the lifestyle of an FC like? Give us an idea of the volume of work that you have to do.
It depends what the fleet's for. Like for the whaling fleets or like those dread fleets, it takes a lot of prep. And I got really lucky with my corp mates in Shadow State, guys like Keish, John Hartley, Ultra Cow, Valiant, doing a lot of work to help me find targets and moving alts and stuff around, as well as a ton of other corp members. If it's just a regular roam or whatever, it was not too bad. You just kind of check the map, figure out what's there. But yeah, the bigger ops and fleet ops kind of suck. You put a lot of time into it just to have hopefully get some people some kills.
Mm-hmm. But you're fleeting up like how many times a week or?
I mean, it depends if we're at war or not. I would say most recently, like since Blackout, we were doing it every couple nights. We would go hunting. Since Blackout, well, when I was with my corp, we got I think it was 6 Titans and a bunch of supers and stuff, and that was coming every other night, every couple nights, whatever. Other than that, do it every week, a few times, whatever. I think my average is some crap like 25 fleets a month, which is a little absurd in
Wow.
hindsight for what happened, but
Yeah, leading fleets 25 times. That's just about every day almost, right?
yeah. I mean, a lot of those comes from just going all in on the wars and constantly doing fleet after fleet.
Mm-hmm. All right. So, Ron, feel free to jump in if you like. You're another FC. Maybe you have some questions about the
Yeah,
foundation of the relationship that to give it meaning, to figure out like why this is such a big deal.
yeah. And I don't actually really know Pittsburgh, but I've seen him, on the overview many, many times,
On the
especially
other
over the
side.
past 3 or 4 months. Yeah, well, on the other side, and sometimes on the same side, right?
Oh, right.
Depending. One of the kind of interesting nuances I think that most people will have, like, not a quite a great understanding is the sort of rank structure, right? And I'm curious on, when you went from a line member, and then you kind of go to what, like a low, or like a learning FC, like what is that sort of transition like in the Imperium? And then I'm assuming then you go up another 1 or 2 levels, and that's kind of where you were, right?
Yeah, so I started out just doing like little corp stuff. Eventually did some alliance stuff, nothing important. And then eventually, while I was on an FA, after doing enough fleets, they decided to put some faith in me, did some strat ops. I was lucky when the Sino changes where the jump fatigue used to be of old to watch a entire capital fleet get wiped out by Black Legion out of nowhere. It was real
Mhm.
exciting. Um, and then after enough time, eventually getting familiar with some of the coordinators from the Imperium and them asking you, hey, do you want to do this fleet? Do you want to do that fleet? And just kind of bouncing between trying to create content for the guys, having some fun, to doing some of the more boring strategic stuff, I guess you could say.
Because, it really is an immense amount of trust, right? To kind of get handed the keys to that much firepower, right? There's and it's such a, not necessarily a grind, but it's a lot of work, to get that level. Because at first they just give you the little keys, right? And then the keys start to get bigger and bigger, and until you get to the level where you were, where that's a big set of keys.
Well, to be perfectly honest, I never had capital keys. I was only supposed to be like a mid-tier FC,
Hmm.
and I just got bored with the goon lifestyle, sitting in Delve, getting rich and fat off of rorquals, and a bunch of my buddies. It started with the corp. We wanted to use dreads, and then as we kept doing more and more dread drops, dudes would come to me saying, "Hey, can I get in on this? Can I get in on this?" And I was like, I guess there's no SRP though, dude. If you want, here's where we're putting them. Let me know and I'll ping you." And then after quite a few successful ones against some Titans and some other stuff, figured, okay, well, let's go big then. I'm tired of these dudes counter dropping me and wiping out the dreads after we get our kill. And hit up, I think it was like 7 different groups of people, maybe a little bit more than that, and somehow convinced them all to come, knowing that SRP may or may not happen.
Wow, that's actually a little bit different than I had thought. I mean, no SRP, you're kind of going out on a limb a little, and everyone has to pay it out of their own pocket. That's what the assumption is, right? And yeah, I mean, it's a little bit different, and it's great though. I mean, it's a wonderful step, right, into getting into that level.
Yeah, it was really cool actually. I mean, shy of getting purged, but seeing that many people that were interested in doing it, and just kind of on a whim telling them, "Hey, here's the plan. Here's what we're gonna kill dudes. I need you to move some ships and have a jump clone ready, and let's see what we can do." And just how many people came out of the woodworks that may or may not even be active players anymore that were like, you know what, I want to do that. That sounds pretty cool.
Oh, you brought some people out of inactivity.
Yeah, I mean, we have some people in our corp that really only were logging in for my ex corp, I guess, that were logging in for like some
Mm.
of the big drops. the whaling fleets really since Blackout. When we were having success, there was a lot of people saying, "Hey, this is kind of really the only reason I'm playing anymore is for these big kills. It's kind of boring otherwise." So it was
Well, let's talk about that. What actually happened that caused the Imperium leadership, or who actually? Well, let's say leadership asked you to leave the alliance you put 6 years into.
sorry, say that one more time. It cut off for me.
Oh, okay. So, what actually happened to cause the trouble that led to you having to leave?
So start with a little backstory. We went like a week or two, or probably 2 weeks before that. We had done a drop with Shadow State and Chemique, and had gotten X Death Ragnarok. He was bosoning. We were just trying to kill some rorquals or whatever, and he tried to boson our fleet. So we dropped a bunch of dreads on him, got a kill, and they dropped some counter fleet. And we're like, you know what? Screw that, dude. We're not just gonna whelp 20 dreads for a single Titan. Like, let's go big and try to kill him. And so we kind of started asking around who would be interested, what groups. I'm not sure if you're familiar with a lot of the Imperium SIGs, but I started with some of the SIGs, and then kind of got a quick count of how many dreads I thought it would be. Because we, right up front, I started asking some of the guys that were a little more experienced with capitals, since I'm not a Cap FC, asking them, like, okay, well, how many dreads do you think it would take to do this? And kind of the bottom line answer was no less than 100. If you had 100, you'd probably be okay. You'd get a couple Titan kills before they escalated more, and then you would die. So I was like, okay, well, we're kind of right at that threshold. So I started asking out to a few more groups, hit a couple different corps that I kind of trusted up, uh, asking if they wanted to join, and then brought some other groups that were supposed to be specialized in dread bombs, stuff like that, and then had a couple corp mates that were really great with helping me get capitals moved for everybody, including some of the guys from the SIGs. Got dreads and carriers brought up, staged everything, told everybody like a week and a half, 2 weeks ahead of time, here's the date we're going to do it. Got everything set, gem clones ready, had a bunch of dreads to sell there. And then told everybody to be around. Actually, the reason we picked that date was because the Stuka nerf was coming, and I had been talking to Init about it, and they were like, "We need to do this before the dread or the Stuka nerf hit." So like, okay, well, it's a little sooner than we had originally thought, but we did it. Got a bunch of dreads there, and then actually the day of beforehand, brought everybody in like half an hour, told them exactly what we were doing, how we were going to do it. Everybody joined fleet, got their dreads all sorted and stuff, and then we pinged main fleet, and I went out and luckily caught a rorqual. I can't remember who it was that got the initial tackle, but they did that, and of course Sex Death responded as always. And then we jumped, or we midpointed. Stukas held on grid, and then finally, once the red or the fatigue timers were down, everybody jumped in. And unfortunately, my Sino died pretty quick, so we only got about 70 of the 124 dreads we had in. And then I found out that I only had one backup Sino that had made it to system. He warped in and instantly died, and my other Sinos were like 3 or 4 jumps out, stuck in bubbles. So they slowly made it over, but by the time they got there, those 70 dreads were pretty non-existent. We dropped the rest in because we had already taken a Ragnarok to armor. He warped out, went to an Erebus, or Erebus. He went to armor, or low armor, was saved by faxes. Then we went to Ragnarok. He was low armor. So we had 3 close calls before all the dreads died. Some randos and a bunch of corms showed up and screwed us over on the dictors. They could have just helped kill a couple titans and then killed everybody. But yeah, so we did that drop, and then like everybody pretty much said, "Hey, that was fun. Let's do it again." That was a blast. And I was like, "Okay, cool." Started planning the next one, and then got told by one of my buddies, "Hey, it's you or the corp. Get the hell out."
Whoa! So that's
Yeah,
how you found out.
yeah. He's like, "Hey, I'm talking with Mittens. Uh, basically, it's you or the corp. You
Uh,
can choose, but if you make this big drama or whatever, then you're gonna get shoved out the airlock, and it's gonna be instant. And you won't have any chance to get your stuff safe."
uh,
And I guess in hindsight, the big anger was because of the use of the HY Fortizar, but that was literally the same Fortizar I've been using since Blackout started, as well as other corps that drop dreads in the area and stuff. So I don't know.
So let's get that clear. So the reason that first of all you do this battle, it doesn't go well for you. A lot of people were involved, including other FCs, right?
Yeah, so there was multiple capital FCs, like actual sanctioned capital FCs from the.
Yeah. And you find out, hey, you got to go. It's you or the corp. Um, and they say the reason is why.
Yeah, they. I mean, so the like go back to the FCs. I
Mhm.
think we had three capital FCs there. Had two chords or coordinators with us, and some of them even bought dreads from me, knowing exactly where it was. And I guess they just got really mad about the use of the Fortizar in hindsight.
Mm.
Test was.
Ron, what do you know about that Fortizar? What kind of why isn't he supposed to use that Fortizar?
So to the best of my knowledge,
You're in test.
there are
This Fortizar
yeah,
is in
yeah,
your
yeah, yeah.
space, right?
Yes. So it's in legacy space. So basically, there are some structures, that are owned by Imperium that are, really close to our space that are for logistics, right? So they're for, different things, but they're not to be used for offensive actions. And to kind of give, like a similar example would be if I gave you permission to use our jump bridges to come to this fight. But after the fight is over, instead of using the jump bridges to go home, you use the jump bridges to go tackle a rorqual, right? So it's if they were going to be used for offensive actions, we would kill them, but we leave them there. They're for logistics or jump raiders or whatever they are. But it's hey, these are there. We're going to leave them so to make it easier for you, but just don't use them for offensive actions. So that's really the kind of crux of it, right? Which is, there's an agreement in place between the Imperium and Legacy, and that was one of the rules on the agreement.
Yeah, so to my knowledge, it was you're not allowed to use them offensively. Like don't do anything SOV or structures, basically, because we have the non-invasion pact with Test or Legacy in general, and so we had been using them for several months to stage capitals out of, to including whether it was just fun drops on Brave or even killing other Titans. Like we killed a couple Test Titans with the help of FRT and Marshy and some of those dudes coming from that Fortizar. Everybody gave high fives, said, "Hey, good job getting Titans," whatever. Obviously, they were pissed when I worked with Marshy because Gur, Marshy, and Bomber's Bar or whatever.
Yeah.
But nobody said don't use that Fortizar. People had cap stage there. We kept doing it, and nobody seemed to have an issue when they bought the dreads from me there, or when I gave them the plan that that's where we were staging for 2 weeks.
Mhm. So
I
then,
sorry, go ahead.
yeah. So just for clarification, then were there any rules about the H Tech Y Fortizar? Any explicit rules that were prohibiting the kind of thing that you did? Like, I'm trying to figure out why they kicked you.
I don't know where if it's posted. I think everybody said they looked afterwards, and it doesn't say anything about not being able to stage caps. It just says the no offensive operations. But last I checked, killing crabs in rorquals wasn't offensive. Or shooting defense fleets because we fight test on the regular. And test has brought capitals our space. We've taken them there to have fights. I guess it turns more into feeds when you bring the Titans in or whatever. And then we all know the rules about the NIP, where you're not allowed to hit any structures, whether it be a low power citadel, POS, iHub, whatever.
Mm-hmm. So, Ron, are you blue to the Imperium or are you gray, neutral?
So we're neutral to the Imperium, but we cannot hit structures. We cannot cloaky camp. There's rules that, and I know that, everyone is kind of, oh, that, this thing sucks or whatever, but, not having to defend that border, against invasions and things, has freed up a lot of resources for us, right? And for them as well. So I can completely understand the point, that a lot of dislike, for the agreement or whatever, but it's, served us both very well, over the past couple of years.
Well, it says here from this information I have under the catch agreement. I think this is an agreement. See if this rings a bell here. Legacy, sovereignty, and catch. Okay, so the HTAC-Y can be replaced if destroyed. Imperium agrees to render assistance in defending sovereignty structures within this zone from joint threats such as aggression from PL and NC dot. So you have some kind of it's not only a non-invasion pact, but you have some sort of defense pact with each other, it sounds like.
Yeah. Yeah, and that sort of spawned out of the UALX battle.
Where you guys helped each other against the aggression of a Winter Coalition with Pandemic Legion, right? That was 2018. Okay, so the HTAC-Y is a Goon Swarm Fortizar, and it's in your space. And it's there for what purpose, Ron? Like, what did you say the reason was?
I mean, I'm assuming that it's like logistics or something like that, or maybe, that's a something somewhere that they store things that they own that can, then be transported to the north. Maybe it's a way station of some sort.
I think it's pretty well known that nobody does logistics over there. As far as I know, it's literally just a spot to tether up and then a way for the capital fleet to go assist tests. Like, there's nobody that lives over there, period, from
Even
goons.
even though if you're if you're not supposed to attack test, you did kill some test Titans, right? I mean, why weren't you kicked then? That seems to be a violation of
Yeah, I think in total I've killed 5 test titans now. That goes back to when I came back from my deployment. I got scammed and was like, you know what? I'm gonna keep killing test, whatever. I don't really care whether blue or not. So we did that. HY just happened to be convenient. I mean, actually, Jay was on one of the drops when we were down in Esoteria. We got a Ragnarok there. We've gotten a few others
that's Jay
all around.
Amazingness from Goonswarm.
Yeah.
Well,
Um,
you wanted to join Test, but now did you get scammed by Test?
yeah.
Oh, so
I
it
was
was.
stupid. I was ignorant. Came back to Eve. I was like, okay, whatever. And then Goonswarm picked me up. But I definitely won't forget that for the whole time I'm in Eve.
Oh, wait, Pittsburgh, hold on. Did you and I talk
We
on
did.
Reddit via PM like about a year and a half ago or something?
We did.
Oh man, that is so crazy.
Do you guys have a secret
So,
grudge?
so no, so like this is so crazy.
Yeah,
It's so funny that this circle. So about a year and a half ago or something like that, I saw this guy that just hated test, like just ugh. And I just PM'd him and I said, "Hey man, what's up? Like we're just people." La la la. And and he told me that he had just got back from deployment. I think it was Iraq or Afghanistan.
Yeah, Afghanistan.
Just got back from Afghanistan, and then he got scammed, like the classic kind of recruitment scam. And and obviously I hate that stuff. And I went and looked for his name, like on the little forum and things like that. And I found who it was, and I told him, like, this is the person. He's not in test. You go hunt him down, and if you need help killing him, you just let me know, and I'm there.
Yeah, Ron was super cool about it. He's a chill dude. Talking with him was uh, pretty well wrapped up my hate fest for test. I mean, it was, like I said, it was stupid. I knew what happened when I got scammed, but it was to be
No,
honest,
man,
it's
it's
really
it's
just
not
easy to
cool.
fight
It's not
tests
cool.
because you're out in the middle of nowhere if you're in goon space. Like, we have a 3 region buffer around us of literally nothingness.
Hmm. So you guys had actually met a long time ago, and um, so
I didn't make the connection, but
Ron.
yeah, this is well, again, I'm sorry that that happened, man.
Yeah, yeah. So you come back, you are annoyed with tests. Why not take it out on them? They're actually neutral on paper, but there's a non-invasion pact, which you're not doing. And again, for clarification, you have other FCs that are with you too, but it's your operation.
Yeah, so I planned it out, talked to a few different people because obviously I'm not a capital FC. Some dudes were concerned about SRP, so I talked like Space Violence into coming over. Talked to Jay Amazingness to see if he was going to come, some stuff like that, just to get people that would be able to approve it. We got a few more people to join that way, but yeah.
Yeah. But since it was your operation, then you're the guy that basically violated the rules that I guess weren't clear to you.
Yeah, and I mean, if you listen to Reddit or firesides and stuff like that, nobody gets purged for a single incident. I guess I have a long history of screwing up, according to Mitani, despite for 6+ years doing stuff for him. And or if you listen to Reddit, the cord says, "Oh, I never knew this was happening." It's like, well, I got contracts where several people in top leadership in Goon bought dreads from me in that station, including coordinators. So good luck with that spin.
Hmm. Well, it just seems like you're a guy that's doing a lot of, I'll call it work, right? We'll call you a content creator, right? So you're a content creator, putting stuff out, getting people out there, and you run afoul of what looks like diplomatique. That seems to be what happened. And then they have to make a decision. Do you protect the diplomatics, or do you protect the guys having fun, while they're on holiday? Because it doesn't seem like you're in a war right now.
Yeah, and I mean that was the thing. Like, never had any intention of invading tests. Like, we have plenty of fun fights. They send roams over and stuff that are fun. It was just happened that X Death was an easy target for this one, so we set up to go kill some crabs in their stupid home defense fleet. And never once shot an iHub, shot a structure, any of that crap. Like, somebody posted the rules in the chat up there.
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't say anything about dropping on dudes, which happens on the regular. So I set this up, and then I FC'd the Stuka fleet, and then I got some of the Cap FCs to help me with the dreads.
Mm-hmm. All right, so let's take a question here from chat. Serenius1 says, so this is a bit disingenuous. A few things to get straight. First, the Fortizars in IN are in our space. I think he might be in test then.
He
right
is.
in the middle of catch. Okay. They're intended for joint action like UALX, which is something you said, Ron. The defense pact isn't explicit, but yes, Pitts is clearly being scapegoated, according to Serenius. They're trying to act like it was him and not implicitly endorsed by leadership.
I mean, I think one of the dudes posted a picture that showed like Jay and several others losing dreads in system. Like, they were there, they saw the post. I never lied about anything. I put in the post the link to the Z kill of X Death, saying we will stage in HY, move your jump clones and dreads there, and it was up on the forums for like a week and a half before we ever went. People posted up saying they would join. I got PMs of people saying, "Hey, can you hook me up with a dread?" Stuff like that. So,
Mm-hmm.
uh, yeah, I mean, I don't blame him. Good for Mittens. He's tried saving his alliance by killing an expendable FC. There's always more FCs. And what is he going to do? Purge his entire military leadership that all joined me on the fleet? No, I mean, I don't blame him for it.
Mm-hmm. So, but the counter to that, or the pushback, is you violated some diplomatic agreements that we had, and you're not sorry. Maybe was there anything about your attitude that might have added to this sort of purge or anything?
So I got told pretty much like after we did it, whatever you do, don't speak. Just keep your mouth shut. By some dudes who actually like me in Gunstorm. I was like, okay, whatever, keep quiet. And, I mean, straight up just lost 290 bill in dreads or whatever it came out to, 300 bill, something like that. But everybody had a good time. So I was like, okay, fine. And then I think it was like 2, 3 days later after the drop, uh, somebody in my corp was like, "What the hell? I can't drop in this dread or I can't dock in this station." I was like, "Oh, that's really weird." Okay, so he sent somebody else over. We checked, nobody could dock. And then one of the other corps that we dropped with said, "Hey, we can't dock here either. Is anybody else having this issue?" And this was in like the director channel or whatever. Like there's a lot of corp leaders and stuff. And I was like, the only comment I made to them was, I'm sure the Diplos would never lock line members out of a citadel with billions in assets trapped in it without giving some sort of warning or a reason. And then, of course, the mittens there, everybody said, "Shut up with your passive aggressive bullshit. I'm just measuring spikes to figure out whose head to uh, put out front," or something like that. So I already knew at that point I was dead. Like, okay, he's already gonna kill somebody for it, so whatever.
Why do you think he was upset if that's what was going on?
I'm probably pissed off whatever Diplo team. I mean, the Goonswarm Diplo team is just super anti-content.
Content being PvP and getting out there and doing stuff. Well, it's hard for me to believe that Diplo team would be against going out and having little skirmishes, but they're probably against you pissing off allies or people that you're neutral to, but also have a mutual defense pact. Is there any kind of gray area or difference that you crossed a line in, do you think?
I mean, people kill Goon Titans on the regular. There's dudes that join Bomber's Bar and kill Titans and Supers, whatever. So we just got a good group of dudes together. I mean, yeah, sure. If I was blue to test, I wouldn't want to drop on them. But during war, there's literally no agreements. Like you can
Yeah.
do whatever you want.
But you're not technically blue with test. And you actually dropped on, not test, you dropped on
X-Death,
Fire Coalition. Yeah.
Legacy. Yeah.
Well, they're not Legacy. They're actually Fire Coalition. They're a different. Ron, am I wrong about this? Fire Coalition
No,
is.
you're right.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not technically legacy, but yeah.
So you didn't drop on a group that you had a non-invasion pact with. You actually dropped on their neighbor and their ally. Do you have a non-aggression pact, or does Imperium have a non-aggression pact with Fire Coalition?
Not that I know of. If it is, it's probably some random thread that Tiplos have posted. But even then, I know it doesn't say anything about dropping on rorquals because we've hunted there several times.
So you can kill their rorquals. That's not a.
Yeah, there's. I mean, to be upfront with you, like I give you guys all some free intel. If Goonswarm pings is a strat op, it means they're going to kill somebody that's not in Legacy. If they they ping a peacetime, it means they're going for somebody in Legacy. Like literally, you can figure that out from a ping right off the bat. So have fun.
Okay, let me just write that down really
Yes,
quick.
that's part of the coding, huh? Like, is that just a well-known thing, or is that part of like some kind of actual?
I didn't know it.
Okay, so it's
I
not that
mean,
well.
you can anybody that well,
That's
any
interesting.
FC and Imperium knows because as soon as you ping or request a ping for like Stukas or Bombers, the first thing a core is going to ask you is, okay, well, who's your target? And then they'll tell you one way or the other if you can do strat op or not. So it matters on the SRP. So like if you want to go for PanFam or FRT or whatever, they'll be like, hey, yeah, strat op, and that gives you some more numbers. If you're going to go shoot Legacy, they'll do peacetime, which kind of screws you over, and you get half as many dudes in fleet because pap links apparently matter.
Well, I think the reason to me this story is interesting is because it's a fleet commander who's following what looks like the rules and is attacking and creating basically a good time for the people that are following him. And even other FCs are being a part of this. So it's definitely like stuff that you guys are doing to keep yourselves entertained while the next war is being developed. But then at a certain point, they punish you for going too far, and going too far means that you've upset the balance of this mutual defense that's going on between Legacy and Imperium, and also it looks like Fire Coalition.
Without ever saying anything about like, oh, that's too far, don't do that.
So you didn't even know, like even the fleet commanders don't know.
Yeah, literally the only time I've ever been told don't do this is when so I dropped a super with a buddy in V3 and they were like, you're not allowed to have supers in Legacy space. It's like, okay, cool, whatever, I'll move my super back then, fine, I got my one kill. and then the other time was dropping on when we killed the 2 test Ragnarok's with FRT and Marshy, and they were like, if you ever fly with Marshy again, you're out of the Imperium, you're blacklisted.
They really don't like Marshy. Marshy is Bomber's Bar?
Yeah, Bombers Bar FC or Blopsec.
Yeah.
Yeah, just slight correction. Yeah, so Marshy's Blopsec, and he was with Bombers Bar for a little while, but he went away. That was last week's show.
Oh, okay. All right. So but what's interesting to me is this is in peacetime, right? You got to keep your guys entertained, but uh, either the fact that you lost was painful, which I don't think anybody's claiming that, right? Like the fact that you whelped those dreads to the tune of 300 billion. That's not that big a deal, is it?
I mean, that's nothing. Like, we're talking, we're the land of milk and honey here in Delve. That's less than one locust fleet every other week. So who cares about the dreads, to be honest?
So it wasn't about the money
Most
then.
of the dudes all got SRP.
It wasn't about the money. It seems like you're upsetting something bigger. And at peacetime, you're trying to keep content going for people who are finding the game boring and kind of slow.
Yeah, you're trying to stop the bleed. I mean, listen to anybody over the last like 6 months talking about the player count going down and
Yeah,
how
no
the game
doubt.
sucks. And oh, I don't want to be on this. Like, listen to a single fireside where they say, "Oh, you guys, CCP's messing it up. We need to find things to do." So ever since Blackout hit, guys like me and Keish have found stuff to do. It's been whaling. That's really the only thing left because there's nobody wants to undock.
Well, that's the interesting part. Is on the one hand, you have these vocal complaints about the game is slowly dying and it's not fun, and at the same time, you're saying we're gonna say don't go and do some of this stuff that's even in a gray area. So it seems kind of like a conflict there.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, everybody wants to give you a high five when you kill a Titan, but if you piss off Corp Diplomatique, then good game, have fun, dude. And the decisions are.
Yeah, and I think at this point, I think it's pretty obvious that the South is organized and they have a mutual defense, and you can hurt each other, but not very hard. So it looks like Imperial legacy has never gone away, and now you have Fire Coalition as part of that.
Yeah, and I mean, at the end of the day, like even if the only reason the drop failed was some Sinos died and didn't have the backup ready to go.
Oh, interesting.
Even best case, we had only killed maybe 3 or 4 of their Titans. Like that's irrelevant. The number of Titans in this game is absurd, so it doesn't make a difference. Nobody cares whether one side or the other loses 10, 20 Titans.
Yeah. Well, what do you think about these agreement blues? We'll call it in this peacetime. Are they
I
helpful or are they
despise it.
stifling?
That's super stifling. I mean, just from an FC perspective, like I've been living off drifter wormholes. Thank God CCP introduced drifter worm. Like if you want to go anywhere to kill anyone right now, you're talking. If I don't want to shoot legacy, then it's something crazy. I want to say it's like 42 jumps without jump bridges or something to get to them without a jump bridge or a wormhole. So I mean, what do you think's going to happen? We're going to look next door and try to shoot them, or at least the people who give a shit about the game and want to entertain their friends.
Yeah. You're somebody that gives a shit and you want to entertain your friends, basically.
Yeah, I've never cared for the Diplo portion of it. I mean, yeah, I know ever since World War B, that's super important. Have allies. Don't get gangbanged by the entirety of Eve. You don't want to lose your space, but it sucks for peacetime. Like the war's over.
Mhm.
I think that's a really good point as well. That a couple of things. One, that Pittsburgh is a content creator, right? And the real essence of that is uh, there's nothing happening at all, and then he creates this sort of content out of nothingness, right? And be wormholes or hitting legacy, or like hitting legacy. But he's a content creator, so that's very, very valuable. And then the second thing is that, he technically wasn't, a Cap FC, but he was stretching it a little bit, going that kind of extra mile to create content. And I thought it was, a great thing. Like, I thought, I saw it, I watched, the videos of it. I wasn't there, but I thought it was, a really great and interesting sort of piece of content that he was creating.
Yeah. And you're sometimes a target of those attacks. But you're like, yeah, it's fine. Is that what you're saying?
I mean, it
Yeah,
goes both ways. Like
yeah.
test does the same, and nobody cares. Like you bring a Stuka fleet to Delve or whatever the new flavor of the month will be now, and have a fight. People want it. Like they don't want to just. I mean, I'm sure there's plenty of people that want to sit there in their stupid rorqual mining spot all day, but
It's a
it's fun for that.
lot of people
I, I
upset over not being able to do it.
I
Yeah.
wish there were more delve wormholes up north, but you get what you get.
Yeah. I mean, it's the end of the day. It's like, yeah, I have a deep-seated hatred for Test, even though Ron has already spoke that those dudes aren't in Test anymore. It still goes back to that, but it's like I hunt anybody in Eve. It's not like we were like, oh, there's a wormhole, it's a pan fam, let's roll it, let's go for Legacy instead tonight. Like if you look at the kill boards, we've literally killed every alliance, whether it be Darkness, pan fam, FRT, Test. It doesn't make a difference. Like
Mhm.
I like the idea that we're at peacetime. We're not. There's nothing strategic going on. Why not go have fun and try to get better or try new things?
They're
Well,
in PL, by the way. Just throwing that out there.
Yeah, which yeah,
new target, new target.
they they don't undock, so I can't kill them, right?
well, well, at a time when a lot of players are saying, "Hey, CCP, you got to give us something to fight over." What do you have to say to that sort of a mindset that CCP has to basically create the things that you fight over?
I I don't know. On one hand, I would love for CCP to introduce some stuff that creates content. Like
Mm-hmm.
I despise Citadel timers. I think that's literally the cancer killing this game is Citadel timers. I've got over Fozzie Sob. I don't think Fozzie Sob's that bad anymore. Now they changed who can hack and get repairs and stuff like that. But
Yeah,
at the end of the day, it goes back to, does your alliance want to do something? Like the reason I joined Kendar's group is because they want to have fun. They want to go do fights. They don't care about like, oh well, I maybe the next war I need to worry about this alliance and blew up with them. Like they want to go out and do cool things, and that goes on your alliance. If you
yeah,
want to sit in Delve and make Fortress Delve and crab and do Locust fleets every other week, that's great. Cool, dude. Go sit there and make all your billions of ISK to do what? Like, so I started in 7 years ago with a single Harbinger, and now I have like Faction Titan and supers and all this crap that I don't even know what to do with because sure as shit isn't a war to use them in. So
well,
like
how big
ISK
is
becomes meaningless.
how big is your arsenal?
Mine? I mean, I'm sure somebody would love to come hunt me now that I'm not under the super umbrella. But
Okay, so maybe you won't give that away.
yeah, I'll tell you, I have the top Moloch. That's my pride and joy right now. That's
Oh, it's worth a lot. Worth a lot. So, somebody asked earlier. It was X. Shoot. Anyway, I won't try to say his name. There it is. It's Xylix Zenith. He asked if there was any more reprisals that you're worried about. Like, do you think after being vocal, even now doing this show, and there was a Reddit thread about you, and I've seen you in TIS Discord. Are you worried about any reprisals, any more further reprisals?
I mean, what are they gonna do? The majority of Eve outside of Goons wants to have fun. I already told my buddy earlier, hey, tell Mittens to go ahead and blacklist me, dude. I don't care. I'm not going back to the Imperium as long as Matane is still in leadership. Like, if you want to do that to somebody who was loyal for over 6 years to your cause, despite all the random crap we do, then whatever, bro. You
Well,
can
are you
chase me
sure it was
wherever you
him?
want.
It wasn't Diplomatics that did it, or is it ultimately his decision? Like,
He's the one who told the guy to relay to me, either me or the. I'm sure there's
Sorry, you got cut off there. That told you or what?
so Mittens himself was the guy who messaged my buddy through some different channels saying it's me or the corp. You pick, but if you cause a fuss or you say anything that's gonna even slightly piss him off, I push your whole corp out the airlock. So when you want to be that kind of an asshole, I don't really care if the diplomats are behind it or not. That's it.
So there's no chance that you're going to repair this in some way.
I'll literally never go back to the Imperium unless Mittens quits the game. So all the dudes that want to fly with me, find a home.
All right, so let's talk about where you're at now. You've moved on to where?
I'm up north with Kendar in a group called Trigger Happy.
Kendar. Kendar we know from, somebody want to tell me? It was Space Violence, I think. He was running a SIG for the Imperium Goonswarm. So he is also a former Imperium FC, am I right?
Yeah, he was pretty prominent one. I think he was mil or FC leader at the time of his.
Yeah, he did a lot of work on basically softening up the North before 2018 when all the Titans came up north and there was a huge war with GOTG at the time, now Dead Coalition, and NC Dot and PL. He was the SIG that was up there really kind of softening up the area that basically made Horde move from Pure Blind over to Geminate. So he was a big contributor to the way that he created that decay that allowed the big hardware to come up and really crush the North, or actually fight the North at the time. It was a draw because the servers couldn't handle the war, and then the war moved back south. But that's what he's known for.
Yeah, and he's been a great dude I've known since FA days and bouncing around and stuff. And he's always been a solid dude, keeps to his word, which, I mean, that's all you got is your word. It's kind of why I would never return to the Imperium now. You got nothing to stand on there. Go to Kendar because he's a trustworthy.
Right. So Kendar seems to be attracting a lot of talent because not only so your corporation stayed with Goonswarm, but that was probably something that is no surprise since they're a big part of Goonswarm. Aren't they like one of the most active corporations?
So I told my dudes stay. I when I got message saying it's you or the corp, I told them right away. I was like, okay, well, purge me. I'll start moving my stuff. I didn't even ask the corp because that's their decision to make. I mean, I've loved flying with those dudes for 7 years, but that's their decision to come up with. I wouldn't ask any of them to move out of the goon lifestyle in the land of milk and honey. But I mean, to each their own.
Mm-hmm. Let me do a quick correction, Apple Pear. That he says it was Black Ops and Reavers that did a lot of the softening in the North, so not Kendar, not Space Violence. So let me take that back in case that's inaccurate. I know Space Violence is a SIG or was a SIG in Imperium, and I think they might have been in Geminate space attacking Horde. But at some point, they were very active. And as you were saying, that Kendar was a well-known FC for the Imperium before he broke off and started Trigger Happy, I believe.
Yeah, it's just a shame he didn't learn how to spell Fatal Ascension and bring it back.
Fatal Ascension was part of the CFC before the Imperium. Fatal Ascension actually spent a lot of time in, what is it? Right above Delve. Fountain. Yes, they controlled Fountain pretty well right before Phoebe changes hit. Okay, but you're not the only one that's moved to Kendar. I just saw today that Paxton has moved from Goonswarm over to Kendar and where you're going. So what's that about? You have any insight into that?
So they, a couple of them messaged me after their announcement leaked and stuff, saying like, "Hey, look forward to flying with you again." Um, as far as I know, I mean, if you want to believe Reddit, I haven't talked to their CEO, but it pretty much the same thing. Why would you stay in Goonswarm when you can't trust your leadership not to push you out an airlock over shooting neutrals? So they got tired of people getting scanned in Delve and getting shot because they had the wrong fit, which that stopped, obviously. That was a thing they were doing before. But I mean, when you're going to kill your own blues and enforce rules and crap like that, then Paxton leaves. And good for them. Why, why would you sit there and listen to a dude who doesn't even log in and play the game? He just does space politics.
You're talking about Matani.
Yeah.
But you don't need to log in to run. I mean, one of the things that he said is, I don't play Eve, I play the players that play Eve. I think he said that on the Meta show, and it's true. Like, you can manage this big structure without actually logging in. It's not a prerequisite to run the game.
Oh, absolutely. You can run it all you want and turn it into a finely oiled machine like the Imperium is. Go run locust fleets and make billions and all that, but doesn't mean you don't have a pulse on anybody in your alliance and figure out what the people want. That's kind of leadership 101 is you want to care for the people in your group, not just treat them as expendables.
I,
Um, yeah.
I feel like it's almost time for me to like put on the Darth Vader mask and not to advocate for what Imperium leadership did, but I respect their enforcement of the rules of the agreement that both parties made. And I talked to Pittsburgh. I didn't even know it was the same guy, but I talked to him immediately after, and I just wanted to see how he was, and also, hey man, you have a home and test. I wanted to talk to him, but like, I understand where Imperium's coming from because, you know, if you make an agreement, no matter how silly that agreement is, the value, your reputation of that, means something. And they, put down a hammer on that, on the enforcement of those rules. And
Oh, I
I don't,
fully agree, but it's
yeah,
not a listed rule to not use
that's,
dreads out of.
and that's actually, like my thing, from everything that I've heard, right? Two things. One, is that sort of wording, right? Like that's where it kind of, the Texas law thing, right? Whereas uh, the no offensive actions, like what exactly does that mean, right? And then two, that there was senior Imperium leadership, or at least above you, right? Cap FCs that were with you that didn't say anything. I mean, that's just strange. And so that just kind of all leads me that, you were, like the sacrificial lamb or something. And, and it's horrible. I feel really, really bad. I mean, I understand their position, but I mean, it's just,
It seems
ugh,
like a lot of people feel bad because I've been seeing
yeah.
a lot of like, oh man, really feel bad about this, even from people that were in your fleets. From I don't know. I even see that from other FCs that aren't even in your group, saying they kind of feel like this sucks.
I mean,
Um,
I've had dudes that I've been fighting for 7 years in NC and whatever other alliances reach out and be like, "Hey, dude, that was a pretty shitty way for them to do you in." But like Ron's saying, I fully understand it. What are you gonna do? You're not gonna kick out your entire alliance's leadership. You got Jay and Thomas were there, John's there, Brownstar, Kanan, are all these senior dudes that some dude linked a picture of. There's more than that. Like you're talking, you're gonna purge what, like 20 FCs? I think were in the fleet. Okay, good luck running an alliance then. So yeah, sure, kill me, whatever.
so
I
that
moved
just
on.
seems like a corp you're not going to kick from your alliance.
Yeah, I mean, it's not something they're going to get rid of, and they're not going to get rid of guys like Jay. So I'm the expendable one. It doesn't hurt my feelings any. Like I get why they did it. Good for him. He's keeping his alliance going. But yeah, it sucks, and it's not a listed rule.
The other thing is, they probably just underestimated you, Pitt. Like, you're not a Cap FC, right? And they're not paying attention to you. They don't know. But then all of a sudden, you can materialize 124 dreads.
Well,
Like,
that's
wait, what?
Jay posted that in one of them. He's like, "Well, dude, I thought it was going to be like your 30 or 40 dreads like you guys had been doing when you got your previous drops." Like, yeah, sorry, bro. I told you I was going to put a lot of effort into this one and go big. Like, literally, I think the title was like Big Dick Plays or something. It wasn't like, hey, man, we're just going to go kill A Titan. It was, we're going to kill this entire response fleet if this goes right, dude.
Hmm. All right. Well, I do feel like we're missing something here. Like there must be, it's too strange a situation that an FC that is well liked as you, a guy putting in a lot of work over a huge amount of years. You seem to be trusted, not necessarily with the big stuff, but there's very few people that can take out the big stuff like the Titans and the super carriers. But you're a subcapital FC, you're active, you're running 25 fleets a month. You're working in an area that's a little bit gray, right? But you are attacking somebody you have no formal relationship with. You're attacking a friend of a friend's. And although you do lose a lot of ships, 300 billion worth, that's not a big deal considering how much money the empire that you belong to is making. So I'm just missing something. Is it enforcing rules, or was it some kind of personality miss that wasn't working? But it seems like after 6 years, that shouldn't be the case, right? Like they would know that long before.
I mean, like one of my buddies messaged me. He's like, "You always have spoke your mind and whatever. Like that's what we like about you." He's like, "Yeah, I'm not gonna just be like, oh yeah, you know what? The Viceroy crap in Losec is the greatest thing ever. And like that starts World War B. Like call him how I see him, and I'm sure that pissed some of them off because I don't fit into his narrative about how Eve is dying and uh, it's all NC and PanFam's fault or whatever. Like I'm out there trying to create content for dudes instead of complaining like Tuzzy does week after week about the player count, trying to actually get dudes to log in and make the player count mean something.
Yeah. Well, you're doing the opposite of shoving the PCU the PCU down CCP's throat. That was the quote that I heard.
Yeah, I mean that's whatever. I don't blame him. I don't hold a grudge against him. Like I think what I got told today was like I'm gonna get blacklisted if I shoot the locust fleets or some crap like that. I was like, hey man, you ain't gotta worry about it. I'm free game. I'll shoot whoever I want in Eve. That's literally why I went to Kendar's Alliance because I care more about having fun than the diplomatic crap of it. Like if you lose a war, that sucks, dude. You lost the war. I've been on the losing end in Eve wars before. I've been on the winning end. It's whatever. You rebuild after that.
Mm-hmm. Right.
The other thing to say is, Trigger Happy is doing a lot of really fun stuff up there in the north. That's that tribute, that's that sort of petri dish that's going with all these kind of small groups, and they're having a lot of fun. They're doing some interesting things. So, I think there's a lot of brightness in your future, especially as a new Cap FC. We can go ahead, we can promote you now, right?
Yeah, I'm proficient at losing that.
We all are.
Yeah. All right. Well, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, I mean, I wish more people would take the route of trigger happy. There's tons of little small groups all around trying to do stuff, and it's like one dude said in chat there. He's saying a frigate gang appears, drop supers on them, and you wonder why nobody logs in or nobody roams to your space anymore. Like, I mean, if you don't like it, break off of those large groups. Go have fun. Go with a group that doesn't just drop supers on everything the instant it shows up.
Yeah. Which is what you're doing. You're going to Trigger Happy, and it looks like Paxton out of Goonswarm. It looks like 500 players or 500 accounts there are following you there, or they're leaving for whatever reason, but they are leaving to the same place. It's kind of a coincidence. Also, I think that we talked to Peak, who's starting to build back up after being asleep for a while. And that's Harvey, who's a big friend of TIS. We really like him. And he's like, Kendar is very interesting. He's going and doing some stuff, and they're looking at, they're watching that situation, maybe getting involved. So it just seems like there's a lot of momentum going. So yeah, there's Harvey Skywalker in chat there, but it's very interesting. Maybe there is a difference between holding the empire together and actually having fun in peacetime. Like there might be a difference there of what's going on. But again, I think this sounds really strange. I don't know what it is that you officially violated that got you into trouble. I think you were dealt with harshly, which is not unusual. I think that's something that the Mittani, the leader of the Imperium, has been known to do in the past. Even sometimes when he's made mistakes, like I think they actually in FA didn't they kill they killed a Titan FC, but then they
Yeah, they. I want to say they killed Sword Dragon. I don't know. It's been a hot minute
Oh,
since FA.
no they
it
killed
was
an FC from
they thought it was a spy
they thought he
Oh
was a
yeah,
spy.
yeah.
or something.
Reps on what?
Yeah.
Reps on
Yeah.
Kane.
There was a there was a there was a moment in a fleet where a guy said reps on, and he named a Black Legion fighter, and they thought spy, so they blasted the guy's Titan. They invited him into a fleet. He jumped in, and then they all killed him and threw him out. And then they realized it was a mistake because this guy had been a part of FA for a long time. And then they made it whole, and there was a very public apology and that sort of thing. But he's been known to reverse himself. But this doesn't look like that situation. Obviously, you you have said that you are not going to go back to Imperium, regardless of what gets cleared up.
I also heard that tomorrow the Corp is holding a meeting, and they're going to talk about, stay or go or that kind of thing. And
What corp?
I don't know. I think that'll be Pittsburgh, Pittsburgh's old Corp.
Black
That's what I heard.
Shadow what?
Shadow
There's
State.
I mean, there's a lot of people that I've heard talking about whether they want to stay or go, and I encourage them to do some research before they split one way or the other. I make sure they don't make a dumb
Well, it's
decision and they don't want to play the game afterward.
if that's true, I don't know. I haven't heard anything about that, but if that's true, that's a pretty big deal because they are second only to Karma Fleet in activity, and they have a lot of FCs in that group. So that would be a pretty stinging loss. But I don't know. I haven't heard that at all, except just now.
Yeah, I'm sure there's plenty of corps at least having a discussion. I know there's plenty that have given me their best wishes and that they're in limbo. But
Mhm.
I mean, I'm sure on the meta show or whatever, I'll be the villain that I'm trying to destroy goons or whatever. So for those that join the fleets all the years, I appreciate it, and you make a smart decision based on how you like to play the game.
All right, and we should get comment from someone from the Imperium if they would like to. We'd have the same hour interview with them. Maybe even have you guys on at the same time if you guys agree to it. But we're not able to get anyone from the Imperium at this time. All right. Well, listen, this has been a really interesting thing to watch. At first, I thought, oh, okay, well, this happens, so it's nothing. But I think there's a lot of things that are interesting here. One is the idea of who your allies are and how public is that information. Because basically, on paper, Test and Imperium are no longer allies, and neither is Fire Coalition with the Imperium. Like that's supposed to be dissolved because it's not wartime, it's peacetime. And that's interesting to know that actually, wait, there are some limitations. Two, I think the bigger deal is it's not just an FC that violated diplomatic arrangements, but it's according to diplomats. But it seems to me like this is an issue of people trying to content create, trying to have some fun, trying to get people to have fun, and leadership. I think you called them top men, which I love. I love that top men are like the Killer B would call them paper pushers. That was his way of calling them something. But their purpose is to keep agreements intact and keep everybody together. And so those two things are in conflict. I think it's a very interesting state of affairs.
Now that you say it, I bet you I got purged for calling them top men over all the years, all the times they hate that stupid phrase. It's probably it. That's why.
I think it's such a hilarious. I think of top hats, and and I think Matani even wore a top hat, so I don't know why it would offend him. I think it was pretty funny. But so yeah, so I don't know what it was, but it's interesting the situation that's happened. Thanks everybody for joining us, and Ron, thanks for coming in and talking with Pitts here. Pitts, we wish you lots of luck. Anything else you want to say or get across?
Just I appreciate everybody who's joined the fleets over the years, and thanks for all the dudes that sent me messages wishing the best of luck. And if anybody's interested in joining up with me or trying to find a new home, let me know, and I'll help you out, whether it's here or elsewhere.
Ron, any last comments?
You know, spoke or Billy said yesterday that he didn't ask for any kind of FC removal or anything. He just wanted to make that clear. He said that yesterday. So, and the other thing is, does Trigger Happy have like a website, or do they? How do they get in touch with them?
I've been in court for all of like 36 hours. I have no idea, man. I know if you message like me or Kendar on Discord, I'm sure he could help you out.
You got
I
it.
have no. I made a promise to him that if I ever left Goons, I would join him, and just jumped on over. Didn't even ask any.
Yeah, we're gonna have to give Kendar some attention because he's really putting something together. It's interesting. We'll have to, but it's from what I hear, it's kind of small and fun. So if it gets too big, it's going to become another. I don't know. Then you're going to have to hire some diplomats.
I think Pittsburgh will probably put a veto on that.
Maybe.
Fought Kendar for the rules today, 1v1 with the Sun, whether you could puppy wave or not. So I think we've got the diplomatic systems.
That's your diplomacy right there.
That's great.
All right. Also, I want to say this one last thing, that diplomacy is also a part of PvP and EVE Online, as is building and exploring. And there's a lot of different parts to EVE Online. And this particular thing that we talked about today is Fleet Command, and that is definitely what a lot of people think EVE Online is all about. So we want to give that plenty of attention. Very interesting situation here with Pittsburgh2989. We'll be watching to see how things progress. So thanks very much, Ron. Thanks very much, Pitts, for hanging around. And thank you for watching Talking in Stations. We will see you tomorrow at our usual time with our regular show with Carneros and Elise and the gang. Take care, everybody, and thanks for watching.